For the past year, I've only been using IPS LCD monitors for daily PC usage. Sure, I've heard of OLED monitors becoming more widespread, but those are in the high £900 to £1,200 price bracket, so not viable for someone like me. There are also quite a few downsides I was aware of, such as brightness, sub-pixel oddities, and of course, burn-in. This is why I also didn't go for a 1440p OLED. Sure, they came down in price, but an RWBG pixel layout would not be pleasant to look at. I then upgraded my PC to an RTX 5080 and decided now would be the time to upgrade to a 4K monitor. Initially, I was certain on this MSI monitor, the 274URD FWE16M. Majestic name, I know. I placed a pre-order on it when it appeared on Scan UK and it got cancelled. Actually, it was delayed for an indefinite amount of time. I pulled my pre-order and began looking for alternatives. That's when I saw this listing on Amazon for the AOC Agon Pro AG326UD. £550 for a 32-inch 4K monitor didn't seem crazy at first, until I looked a little longer and realised this is a QD-OLED monitor from a brand I heard of, so I went for it. Let's list off the specs. The AOC Agon Pro 326UD is a 31.5-inch 2160p QD-OLED monitor with a refresh rate of 165Hz. It has rated 0.03 millisecond response times and is certified for Display HDR True Black 400. The box is very bold. No plain cardboard here. It is also very big. I needed an extra hand to get it up the stairs, but I had everything I needed. Assembling it wasn't too bad, but also not the smoothest process. While the metal base does too easily screw into the bottom without a hitch, the wonky stand requires 2 Phillips head screws to secure to the body, and that goes for the included base adapter too. This is opposed to more premium Alienware and ROG monitors where the stand just slides and clicks in. And on that note, let's talk about its design. Yes, it is asymmetrical, from the front and the rear. If you're a freak for symmetry, this monitor is your worst nightmare. The rear has an asymmetric pentagon around the stand attachment which also houses RGB lighting. I'll get back to that. The stand base is an asymmetric hexagon which is both metal, flat and very solid. You can easily place items on it like my Switch 2 dock. It does extend a fair bit into your desk though, which can be a pain for larger desk pads and small desks. The stand also supports height, tilt, swivel and 90-degree pivot support. The mechanism I did find quite stiff. Maximum height was very nice, much higher than my ROG Strix monitor I used before, so despite the screen being much bigger, I never found myself looking down at it, which promotes better posture. The port situation is alright. We get a DisplayPort 1.4, 2 HDMI 2.1 ports at full bandwidth, and a 3-port USB 3 5GB/s hub fed by USB-B upstream. Both inputs require DSC for maximum refresh rate at 2160p, though I didn't find this to be an issue. My previous monitor only had a single HDMI 2.0 port, which limited console and laptop connectivity. Here, not only do all ports support for full bandwidth, there's now 2 HDMI ports for me to plug in my Switch 2, my PC, then still have one connector free for something else. Coming from a 27-inch 1440p monitor, a 32-inch 4K monitor is quite the culture shock. Before this, I was using a dual monitor arm setup with an additional 24-inch display. I had to completely disassemble that to make room. I used a 1.2 by 0.6 meter sit-down desk with my red towel right beside me, and the AOC fits in nicely. This, or a 34-inch ultra-wide, is probably the limit of what I can reasonably fit on this space. That being said, while I was impressed by the size and resolution, I was less impressed by the triangular RGB sub-pixel layout. It looks pretty similar to the type of edge artifact you see when you're in a VR headset, and that was the biggest tell that this sub-pixel layout is non-standard. So I do believe the triangular RGB layout problem is very much real. I haven't used any competing WOLED alternatives, so I can't say for sure if they are any better in this regard. However, I still found this didn't impede me using a panel at 100% display scale. I use DaVinci Resolve a lot, and being able to fit in more timeline layers is a great plus. Also, being able to record gameplay in full 2160p is also very neat. Okay, let's talk about gaming. The monitor has a 165Hz refresh rate, down from a 180Hz my previous monitor had, but in reality, I found it hard to notice the small 15Hz difference. OLEDs are known to have near instant response times, which puts their overall motion clarity around the same level as much higher-end LCDs. Trouble is, my ROG Strix XG27 ACS is already one of the best tuned IPS LCDs available, so the main difference I spotted was that any slight trailing of the mouse cursor on web pages was eliminated. All the remaining blur was due to the refresh rate itself, much like my AMOLED phone screen. 3040x2160 is a lot of pixels to drive, so you'd want a high-end GPU to take advantage of it. Thankfully, my RTX 5080 is up to the challenge. Now for Counter-Strike, a 32-inch display isn't ideal, but it is certainly usable for some casual gameplay. Where I found this panel really shines was playing on my Switch 2, sitting back with a controller. Splatoon 3 looks absolutely amazing on this panel. All the colours leap out at you, and really demonstrates the wide colour volume and infinite contrast OLED provides. I also typically play JRPGs whenever I can, and the mixture of 4K resolution and contrast really shines in more saturated fantasy environments, both large and small scale. On the subject of contrast, let's move on to HDR. Here, it's more of a tale of two halves. On PC, the experience is superb. OLEDs naturally have per pixel local dimming, which makes every pixel effectively one zone each. Blooming is an absolute non-issue. The peak 1000 mode obviously gives insanely high brightness for flashes, but I did encounter the power dimming phenomenon as well. It's very obvious in Cyberpunk 2077. That, and there is some clipping of bright highlights, so don't expect great accuracy using this mode. For that, true black mode is preferred. On the Switch 2, things are slightly less good. As the monitor doesn't support source-based tone mapping or HDIG, configuring HDR on it is quite a pain, even when following HD TV Test's guide. So when testing HDR in Mario Kart World, there wasn't much of a difference made. For those who care about this, you might be better off with the higher-end Alienware and ROG monitors, which do support source-based tone mapping to some extent. And I think this is a nice transition into what to be careful of when buying an OLED monitor. I already mentioned the sub-pixel layout not being optimal, but there's also the coating to talk about. This monitor is glossy. With enough light, it can reflect my whole room back at me. Not only that, QD-OLEDs have notably poor ambient light handling, making dark content look grey in bright rooms. I didn't find it to be an issue for my setup, but if you're in close proximity to a window, you might want to reconsider. That glossy layer is also very soft, so micro scratches are going to be very difficult to overcome, just saying that if you get bothered by smudgy or scratched screens. VRR flicker isn't great. When playing Cyberpunk 2077 or Alan Wake 2, which tend to have a lot of dark locales, flickering does occur when you're below or around 60 FPS. There are no settings in the OSD to mitigate this either, so you either have to put up with it or disable VRR. That said, other OLEDs do have issues with VRR flicker too, so it's not exclusive to this Agon. The sRGB mode has a noticeably warm color temperature which cannot be changed. This has been an issue with these cheaper OLEDs from both AOC and MSI. It's disappointing as the power native color temperature is pretty good. Despite being labelled as warm out of the box, I found it closer to be paper white than the other modes, which are either too cool or too warm. Shame this calibration didn't go into the sRGB mode. Thankfully, using Windows 11 auto color arrangement is an option. Then there's the big one, panel burn-in. It's this risk that creates arguably the biggest barrier between buying an OLED for some. I have definitely seen OLED burn-in occur, particularly on phone notification bars, which are basically unavoidable. Though with an OLED monitor, I don't think this is a be-all end-all. If you rotate your activities, watching anime, movies, competitive gaming, casual gaming, console gaming, writing scripts, scrolling through websites, video editing, no one element should be on screen for a prolonged period of time. I also now set the taskbar to auto-hide, which hasn't impeded my workload that significantly. The monitor also has a pixel clean option. A warning pops up every 4 hours and every hour after you ignore it. It can get annoying, but it's best at least do it yourself every 4 to 5 hours. It does force you once you reach 16 cumulative hours too, so best to avoid that. There's also pixel shifting, screensaver, and boundary detection options in the AOC to further extend panel longevity. There's also a tentative 3-year warranty that covers panel burn-in. Let's end this by talking about the most important part, the RGB lettering. Aside from its funky pattern and its appearing in windows as being from the AG326UD for some reason, it does function as being soft ambient light that is visible at night, though it's not the brightest even at the strong setting. I have seen worse RGB implementations in monitors though. Let's remember though, that all of this was available for £550. People were already raving about this monitor when it was available for £650 several months ago, but now it is a no-brainer, not just for an OLED but for any 32-inch 4K monitor remotely close to it in price. But it wasn't alone. The MSI Mag 321UP QD-OLED is panel-wise identical to the Agon, just with MSI's tuning. It also fell down to £570, just £20 more than the AOC, which also makes it a stunning value for high-end PC and console owners. They put any LCD game monitor price over them to shame. If you can afford to spend £550 to £700 on a nice game monitor, I'd say there's no shame in going for 4K 165Hz, 4K 240Hz, or 1440p 280 or 360Hz OLED now. Just choose one of the features you prefer. I imagine during holiday sales, this monitor will be back at the £550 price point or better. That's all I have to say. Hope you enjoyed this more casual perspective on owning an OLED monitor. Like and subscribe if you want to see more content on this channel, and I'll see you another time.